Okay, hello and welcome to this first video on short-term auction analysis tools. And in this video, I'm basically going to go through some indicators which are basically in the package of short-term auction tools. So basically what you see here is a compact view. Let me get rid of the options here. A compact view of the chart book with all the things that I'm looking at and all the indicators that are in the package. So the most important indicators, which are not like a standard Sierrachart, are the sculper, right? So the sculper are these symbols here. So bullish symbols, bearish, bullish, bearish symbols, right? Above, basically what you have below price bars is bullish, above are bearish. And these are some standard bid and ask. So delta bars, and then cumulative delta in a lower panel and the volume, and a reference points like overnight high, previous low, previous high. So basically this is a 30-second chart. It doesn't matter which time frame you're using, the signals are going to be the same, because the signals on a scalper study, and this is a scalper study, are based on the DOM and tape, so transactions and order on the DOM, and these are basically indicating the events that are happening either on the DOM or on the tape, and we are going to talk about them in this video, what specifically these things show us. The other thing is the same symbols are on our 30-minute chart. Okay, so you have much less of these symbols, but okay, let me turn off the okay, the levels that you see here are from the options package, so this is not part of STA, but you know, I have it on this chart just to see, you know, what's going on options on my Sierra, where I don't have to use the terminal in to view the levels. Okay, so we have some cumulative delta here, but the most important are these symbols here, right? So again, the same logic as with the scalper, and actually both of these are connected with each other, because when the signal starts to blink here, it will be recorded and shown here. Basically these are the same things, but the way it is presented on the chart is a bit different. We will talk about it too. Then the third study are these pivots. So the multi-VWAP, multi-POC, and this chart here, which is controlling these pivots. And basically the idea here is very simple. You have these numbers here, and these numbers, let's start with this one actually, because it's the easiest to understand, and maybe the only one which you have to do something about it. So what you do about it is that whether at current day the number you have here, so 6 or 5 yesterday, so if you have 6 here, all you have to do is go to the studies, you go to short-term studies, and in number of sessions you input this number 6. I could make it automatic, but for some situations where there are shortened sessions and so on, the count will be a bit different. You basically, if let's say yesterday was a shortened session it wouldn't show up as 6, so you have to add 7. But we'll discuss it in these rare situations in room in a Discord channel, so it's easy to understand what's going on here. But basically, what this number is showing us is how many of the of sessions, okay, we should combine on this volume profile chart. Okay, so this is very important, and based on this, we have also the calculated the pivots. So if you would enter a different number than 6, the pivots would be different in a different place, right? So you always remember when the day begins at 18 EST, right? So when a new overnight session start, you just look what number is here, go to studies, short-term auction, number of sessions, and input that number. And what you can do later on is you can accumulate or combine last 6 sessions. So this current one plus the 5 others, so you will have like 6 sessions. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? So the 6th is here, so we right click, merge with next, merge with next, merge with next, merge with next, and merge with the current one. So we have 6 sessions merged into this one chart, okay? Into this one profile. And it's very important because you will notice that these levels here are very, very reactive, okay? All of them, like the volume POC, yes, very active. A volume area high, TPO area high, and low, very reactive. Okay, so you can see it on you can see for example where. Right, this top here very active with the POC and so on. But this is not the video about the strategies. This is just to show you how to use the the tools here. Okay, so this will automatically show you how many sessions you should combine. So and it's automatic, so you don't have to like guess if you should combine this or that session. It will tell you what to do, and it will also show you the pivots automatically based on the number of sessions that are needed for this action. Okay, so the other thing which is like a very people get really excited about is these sculper study. A sculper basically means that you will have 4 different kinds of symbols here, and these are always either bearish or bullish. And basically what it does is it tries to find these events like absorption, like sweeping, like momentum in the tape, in order book, okay, and basically like mark it on this 30-second chart. Okay, so as you can see, when the market opened today, the RT session, we had this bearish signals, then it started printing bullish, and then all the way down bearish. Like by itself, it looks really, really nice, and most of the time it really is a nice tool if you would just look at this one. But obviously the context is very important here, and in other videos I talk about the context, when it's best to use these as a trigger points or as entry with the momentum or against the momentum. So basically there is a lot to say, but we have to talk about what it actually shows, so it's not like a black box for you. Okay, so right now I'm going to jump into some kind of spreadsheet, and we'll try to talk about the what is behind these symbols. Okay, so first let's see what it says in our legend. This legend is basically the top, from the top to bottom. It is also showing the strength of the signal. So the strongest signal is here, the least strong signal is at the bottom. But it doesn't mean that these will perform better or worse in the same conditions. Obviously, again, the context and the conditions are crucial here. But in general, these are the strongest, and then the lower you get, the as a single signals are a bit less significant. But so the triangles are the two kinds of them, right? So these are triangle up or triangle down, basically bullish and bearish, and this is auction buyer and seller. It identifies significant buyer or seller activity based on multiple events like reloading, abnormal speed of tape, or sweeping, high effectiveness during 4 a.m. and 15 p.m. trade window. Okay, so this thing shows up when there is not one or two things showing up on tape and in order book, right? Because you have, as it states here, you have multiple events happening in the same time or in a very short period of time. So basically reloading when there is bid or ask market orders hitting the offer, for example, and they just cannot eat it. Like it appears again and again and again. Someone is reloading orders. So basically, usually it's some kind of algorithm which will either through the iceberg orders or just with pure reloading with more and more contracts, and it's just absorbing this market order action. Okay, also what happens there is suddenly the speed of tape is getting like much faster, and so all the action in this area is going crazy. And what's important here, it works during the high volatility periods and low volatility periods. But what I mean by that is many times you will see these indicators, these order flow indicators, which will either like show the activity on the tape at market open, RTH open, but they won't show anything happening in overnight session because the thresholds are totally different. So the nice thing about this indicator is that it automatically adjusts, so you don't have any adjustment. So if you get into the studies and settings, there are no like, there's just the source of the chart and stuff like, but you cannot use any settings for this. Okay, so this is like setting the stone. Okay, and you can see that in overnight session, right, it also produces signals. Okay, and look at the volume difference. Okay, the delta and the volume is flat here, but it knows when there is a high volatility period and a low volatility period, and it will adjust to the situation. Okay. So this is like the highest ranked signal here, and you can also see it in this chart, okay, which is 30-minute chart. And when you see this, and when the bar closes and it has this yellow triangle here, it means that it's obviously a longer term chart, but it means that there will be here some like a swing opportunity to short and here to long. Okay, so this is more like these signals on 30-minute chart. It opens a window. Okay, it opens a window of opportunity coming in the market for more of a swing, and then you can get down to a lower time frame, or other things that we use in this short-term auction thing. But this indicates like the window of opportunity opens, right, for bulls or for bears. Like here you have triangle up, triangle down, the squares, these all symbols. Right. Okay. Let's get back to our sculper study, and let's see what other. So this is just action movement. It's similar to action buyer or seller, because this actually tries to identify like a major buyer or seller. That's why I called it auction buyer seller. But beneath it, it means that someone who does these effects on an order book and in tape, well, it usually is not a retail trader, or it's usually some kind of algo. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's always going to impact the market, because you have to understand that there might be a dealer which is not, or someone who is not trading directionally. But usually when you see the combination of these multiple events, like reloading, the speed, maybe sweeping is when there is one order which will swipe the order book for like 2 or 3 ticks or something like that. Okay, so basically all these things are easy, or relatively easy, to see on the DOM and on the tape. And we get that that is what it's based on, right? But if you look at the tape on ES, for example, or NQ, you will notice how hard it is to, like, how much focused you have to be to grasp it, because you have to somehow quantify this in your head. You cannot like put on chart, mark your chart with every single time you see a sweep, with every single time you see a reloading, because that would be a total mess. So the thing with these indicators, which I've made, are that, well, it chooses some kind of a way, right? It is some way of quantifying it. That's why there are no like identical studies based on order flow, because there is no one way to interpret these. Okay, you have to understand that this is one approach to quantifying these things, because again, if you would put on a chart every time there is absorption, then it would be a total mess. Okay, so you need some kind of a threshold, some intelligent threshold. How much is a good sweep, or how much is a good absorption? How many contracts does it have to? And what I did is something that works on any instrument, okay? And you don't have to change any setting. You don't have to put threshold. You don't have to change time frame. This is it. Like on most future markets, it should work. in sense of it should show like a proper reloading, a proper momentum, a proper sweep. Proper, by proper I mean one that is probably significant. Okay, then you have the red and green squares, and this is absorption. So this is just one kind of event, right? And it basically identifies where absorptions of large passive participant is emerging. So this is kind of similar to what I was telling about here, but this is more general in, like, let's say a broader way of describing what absorption is. Sometimes you can see it on delta, sometimes you can see it on footprint, and I put it into one signal. And it's basically when the market participants are hitting with market orders and price doesn't really move. So there might not be like a heavy reloading, but there is a momentum fading, the directional movement is fading aggressively, right? Even though there is a lot of market orders hitting that area. So this is absorption, right? Okay, so auction anomalies. I'm not going to get into all the details because this is kind of like my kind of like a secret sauce. But I will obviously tell you a few things that this includes. So, for example, when I see that there is this strange behavior, like 13 contracts coming in, next second 13, like a strange number, like an odd number, not 5, not 10. For me it's an anomaly, which I notice sometimes, or a lot of times actually, and I try to put all of these that I know and which are quantifiable relatively easy. So these are more like a sequences of orders or transactions. Usually these are sequences of orders, like a strangely looking orders. And this is kind of like I like to see these things in important areas that I'm watching, right? So at pivot points, or maybe at some important option levels, suddenly out of nowhere, it just pops out, and it's like a strange, anomaly to me. So these are like things which, for example, let's say you have 5 prices higher on the DOM, you will suddenly see someone who is like flashing with 53 contracts, and it's like a glitch. It's like it's popping and it's disappearing, and it just does it for a few seconds. And this is when it's going to light up. This will tell you, that there's something odd here. And usually, it will not, it will always be either bearish or bullish, but 90% of time it's rather obvious which side is it, but sometimes it gets weird. Like it might not be a buyer, it might be actually a seller, but it's like probably it's like a 10% of time. Okay, then we have this light square and the circle, and this one is the least important, I think. These two, but alert 2, so a mix of DOM and structure events which were not indicated by any of the above but were close to the threshold. So sometimes you will have this uh, these things which are quite like the ones here, but the thresholds were not that significant. So the event was there, but the numbers, so the amounts, are not quite there. And this is very interesting because sometimes when the volume is lower for a session, you will see these happen, and you might wonder, okay, is this the same guy who does these things but with a lower volume or a lower intensity? But I personally, I want to see these things. I want to see that there is this action going on, but without the volume. Okay, so without the volume or without intensity. So it's just below the threshold for these. But I just wanted to be aware of these situations. Okay, so that is a general description of these tools. We had again bearish signal here from overnight low, so we broke overnight low, then we bounced off the overnight. I mean, you have to look at it for some time and get the feeling of it to find your setup that you like. And I'm going through these setups. So recently I recorded the sentiment, how to recognize the sentiment and how to trade the RTH open. It's a very, very important video. And with the scalper, you can really get into a really nice trade. Like this was today's trade, right? That long. We knew that the sentiment was to the upside. At this point, we knew that it was to the upside, and we saw these significant buyers here, and we knew we wanted to trade to the upper side of the of the value, and we also were alerted that that there is some bearish action coming in here. So yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the best packages that futures order flow in the market. I know it's like I'm bragging here, but I've tested a lot of them. I mean, a lot. Like there are actually like 3 or 4 in the market, like which really count and are quite good. But I'm not sure that you could build like a whole strategy with it. But that's just my opinion. And what I wanted to put into the package here is like with this setup, it's the only thing you need from order flow perspective, in my opinion, without looking into the hyper fast DOM and tape, especially during RTH session. Like, I believe that it is impossible right now in most cases during RTH session, where there are really a lot of great opportunities. If you would have to just look at the DOM and tape, I know there are people who do it, but I don't think that the majority of traders are actually able to grasp it, to focus on that level with such fast algo-driven market as ES or NQ. Like in a lower period, yeah, I mean it's probably doable. In a lower, slower periods like overnight session, you can probably do it, but you have to have some kind of algorithmic way to combine all these things, to quantify these things. And like I said, no study based on order flow which tries to catch like absorption, it will not show the same thing in most cases. Like in some cases, yeah, but in most cases it really depends how you construct it. And what I tried to do here is that you don't need to set anything up. You don't have to, put the thresholds yourself. You don't have to choose the time frame. It doesn't matter because the DOM doesn't have a time frame, right? The tape doesn't have a time frame. You can use filters, but this is done by the software itself, by the algo that I created. So this is like you don't have to do anything. You just open the chart book in Sierrachart and you have all these things. The only thing that you have to change is what I began this video is like, remember to put this chart and put this number into the settings, and then you can combine such number of sessions on your volume profile. Okay, so this is the first video which describes the general information on these short-term auction studies. And I'll be doing more and more because there are so many different possibilities, so many different setups, so many different approaches. And what I'm trying to emphasize to traders who are using it is find one thing that you really understand, that you feel that you got this. Look at the one time frame, like maybe first hour of session, and focus on it, trade it for a month and see what's the result. Okay, take care and see you in the next video.